A northeast garden can be full of flowers in June and nearly silent by August because many landscapes run out of native nectar right when bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds still need fuel. In this video, we will build a Zone 5 to Zone 6 planting sequence with 12 cold-hardy northeast natives, moving from spring bloomers to late-season powerhouses. If you want calm, regional native gardening guidance, subscribe and follow along, and stay for plants 11 and 12, because those forgotten fall bloomers may be the most important plants in the whole garden. Think of this list as a recipe, not a shopping haul. A strong northeast pollinator garden needs something blooming in early spring, something carrying the middle of summer, and something still feeding insects after most gardens have faded. That timing matters because many native bees are active for only a short window. Some emerge when spring trees and woodland flowers bloom. Others peak during warm summer perennials. Monarchs, migrating butterflies, and bumblebee queens need late nectar before cold weather shuts the season down. Native plants also bring more than flowers. Their leaves feed caterpillars, their pollen matches local insect needs, and their bloom times fit the freeze-thaw rhythm of zones 5 and 6, better than many ornamental imports. Use two simple rules as you plant. First, plant in drifts or clusters, not lonely singles, so pollinators can find and use the flowers efficiently. Second, skip pesticides, including many sprays labeled organic, because a pollinator garden cannot work if the insects are being poisoned. Now we will move through the season, from the first spring meals to the final fall fuel. Red columbine is one of the best first moves for a northeast pollinator garden because it blooms when many perennials are still just leaves. Aquilegia canadensis grows in zones 3 through 8, usually reaching 1 to 3 feet tall, and it can handle part shade as well as sunnier edges. Its red, nodding flowers hang like tiny lanterns, with long spurs that are especially useful for hummingbirds. Early bees also visit the flowers for pollen, making it a strong bridge between spring woodland activity and the warmer garden season. Plant it in moist, well-drained soil, then let it do some of the work. Red columbine self-sows gently and fits naturally under open trees or along shaded borders. Next comes a more upright spring bloomer that keeps bees busy as the garden moves toward early summer. Smooth beard tongue, Penstemon digitalis, brings a cleaner, more vertical look to the border, just as spring starts handing off to early summer. It grows in zones 3 through 8, usually reaching 2 to 4 feet tall, and it does well in full sun to part shade. The flowers are upright, white, and foxglove-like, held above neat green foliage that does not sprawl all over its neighbors. That makes it easy to tuck into a northeast perennial bed where you want height without a messy footprint. Bees are the main draw here, including native specialist bees that use penstemon flowers. Butterflies visit too, and hummingbirds may stop by the tubular blooms. For an easy care planting, give it well-drained soil and avoid overfeeding. Smooth beard tongue handles lean conditions and keeps the bloom sequence moving towards summer. Wild bergamot, Monarda fistulosa, is where the early summer garden starts to smell alive. It grows in zones 3 through 8, reaches about 2 to 5 feet tall, and handles full sun to part shade. The flowers are lavender, shaggy, and almost firework-shaped, with stacked whorls that stand above the foliage. Brush the leaves and you get that strong, minty, oregano-like scent, and the aromatic leaves can be used for tea. This is one of the best plants for visible pollinator traffic. Bees work the flower heads constantly. Butterflies land on the broad blooms, and hummingbirds will investigate the nectar-rich tubes. For low effort, remember that wild bergamot is mint family tough. It spreads by rhizomes, so give it room, and plant it where air can move through the stems to help reduce powdery mildew. Butterfly weed, Asclepias tuberosa, is the milkweed for gardeners who want monarch support without a wet, spreading plant. It grows in zones 3 through 9, stays about 1 to 3 feet tall, and needs full sun. The flowers are dense clusters of vivid orange, usually hitting in midsummer when the garden can use a strong focal point. They sit above narrow green leaves and make an easy landing pad pad for butterflies. This plant does two jobs at once. Adult butterflies come for the nectar, and monarch caterpillars feed on the leaves, which is why some milkweed belongs in every serious pollinator garden. For low effort, plant it where you want it long term. Butterfly weed develops a deep taproot, which makes it extremely drought tolerant once established, but it resents being moved. Start with a small plant or seed, give it sharp drainage, and let it settle in. Purple coneflower, Echinacea purpurea, is the classic summer perennial that earns its space in almost any northeast garden. It grows in zones 3 through 8, reaches about 3 to 4 feet tall, and handles full sun to part shade. The look is unmistakable. Drooping purple petals around a raised orange cone. Plant it in sunny beds, along paths, or mixed into meadow-style borders, and it gives the garden a strong midsummer anchor without needing much fuss. Pollinators use it constantly. Bees work the cones, hoverflies visit the blooms, and butterflies land easily on the broad flower heads. Then, later in the season, goldfinches pick seeds from the dried cones. The easiest care tip is to stop cleaning too early. Leave the seed heads standing through winter for bird food, upright structure, and less work. New Jersey tea, Ceanothus americanus, is a compact native shrub that fits where larger shrubs would crowd the garden. It grows in zones 4 through 8, usually reaches 2 to 3 feet tall, and handles full sun to part shade. In late spring to early summer, it covers itself in rounded clusters of fragrant white flowers. The plant stays dense and tidy, making it useful along borders, on dry slopes, or near foundation edges where you still want real habitat value. Those flowers draw specialist native bees, generalist bees, butterflies, and moths. Birds also benefit later by feeding around the shrub and using its branching structure for cover. The low-effort advantage is underground. New Jersey tea has deep roots that help it handle drought once established, and those roots also make it valuable for erosion control and slope stabilization. Yarrow, Achillea millefolium, is the plant for the hot, dry strip where fussier flowers give up. It grows in zones 3 through 9, reaches about 1 to 3 feet tall, and performs best in full sun. Its flower heads are broad, flat-topped clusters made of many tiny blooms. That shape works like a landing pad for small native bees, hoverflies, parasitic wasps, and other beneficial insects that help balance pest pressure in the garden. Yarrow is especially useful in lean, dry, exposed northeast sites, including gravelly edges, slopes, and sunny hell strips. Rich soil can make it floppy, so do not overfeed it. For the strongest pollinator value, choose the straight species rather than highly altered cultivars, bred mainly for unusual colors. Dense blazing star, Liatris spicata, takes over when early summer flowers start fading and the garden needs height. It is native, hardy in zones 3 through 8, and usually grows 2 to 4 feet tall in full sun. The flowers rise as narrow purple spikes, giving sunny borders, rain gardens, and meadow edges a strong vertical accent without taking up much ground space. The blooms open along the spike during mid to late summer, right when butterflies and bees need fresh nectar sources. Monarchs, swallowtails, bumblebees, smaller native bees, and even hummingbirds will check these flowers in a sunny planting. Dense blazing star grows from corms, establishes quickly, and looks best planted in groups. A cluster of 5 or more creates a stronger color signal for pollinators and a better show from a distance. Swamp milkweed, Asclepias incarnata, is the milkweed for the spot in your yard that stays damp after a storm. It is native, hardy in zones 3 through 9, and usually grows 1 to 5 feet tall in full sun to part shade. Instead of the bright orange flowers of butterfly weed, swamp milkweed produces softer pink flower clusters held in rounded umbels. It has a cleaner, more upright look, and it is much happier in moisture than many common border perennials. For monarchs, this plant does double duty. The leaves feed monarch caterpillars, and the flowers provide nectar for adult monarchs, bees, butterflies, and other beneficial insects during summer. Place it along pond edges, in rain gardens, near downspouts, or in a poorly drained corner where other plants struggle. It turns a problem area into usable monarch habitat. Joe Pye weed, Eutrophium fistulosum, is the plant to use when you have moisture, space, and a border that needs serious height. It is native to the region, hardy in zones 4 through 8, and can reach 4 to 8 feet tall in full sun to part shade. In late summer, summer, it lifts huge mauve purple flower domes above the garden, making it a strong back-of-border anchor instead of a small filler plant. Those tall blooms are easy for butterflies to find, and bees work through the flower clusters for nectar. After flowering, the seed heads can also support small birds later in the season. The low-effort move is placement. Give Joe Pye weed soil that stays consistently moist, and plant it where its height becomes structure, not a surprise in the middle of a walkway. Smooth blue aster, Symphyotrechum laev, takes over when many gardens are running out of flowers. It is native, hardy in zones 4 through 8, and usually grows 2 to 4 feet tall in full sun to part shade. The blooms are lavender blue, with clean, starry petals around yellow centers. That cooler color is especially useful in late summer and fall, when many borders are heavy with gold, orange, and deep purple. For pollinators, this timing matters as much as the flower itself. Late nectar and pollen help bumblebee queens build energy before winter, and they feed migrating butterflies, small native bees, hoverflies, and other insects still active in cool weather. The low-effort tip is to plant it near goldenrod. Smooth blue aster is tough, easy to fit into a sunny border, and one of the simplest ways to keep your garden from having an autumn food gap. Stiff or showy goldenrod, Solidago rigida, is the plant that proves fall gardens can still be full-service pollinator habitat. It is native, hardy in zones 3 through 9, grows about 3 to 5 feet tall, and wants full sun. Its flat-topped clusters of golden flowers are loaded with late-season pollen and nectar. Specialist goldenrod bees use it, bumblebees work it heavily, and butterflies stop on it when many summer flowers are finished. If you want one plant that keeps the feeding station open deep into fall, goldenrod belongs near the top of the list. And no, goldenrod is not the usual hay fever culprit. Its pollen is heavy and sticky, built to ride on insects. Ragweed blooms at the same time, but releases lightweight pollen into the wind, which is why it triggers so many allergies. The only caution is space. Stiff or showy goldenrod is tough and can spread, so give it an open, sunny site, a meadow edge, or even a large container if your garden is tight. Build your pollinator buffet in layers. One spring bloomer, several summer workhorses, and always fall asters plus goldenrod to carry insects into the cold months. Start with 3 to 5 plants in a drift instead of one lonely specimen, and buy from local native plant nurseries when you can, especially local ecotypes. Thanks for watching. Which plant are you adding first? Tell me in the comments, and subscribe for more regional guides, including shade natives for Zone 5.